Welcome, everybody. Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a relaxing holiday. Just a reminder that tonight's meeting is being recorded and will be posted for future reference. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Lavi, actually, to lead us in our land acknowledgement.
Thank you. Let us acknowledge together that the Halton Catholic District School Board stands on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Lisani, and the Huron-Wendat, now home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here and thank all the generations of people who have taken care of the land and for those who continue today. Thank you.
Thank you, Lavi. I'm going to pass it over to Becca to lead us in our opening prayer.
You can join me in the sign of our faith, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We come to you today asking for your guidance. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that might affect the students, staff, faculty, alumni, and friends of our school board. And continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name.
Thank you, Becca. Okay, first up on our agenda is approval of the agenda itself. So do we have any additions, deletions, corrections?
Yeah. So I've got one change. Janelle and I on the original agenda had put 2 items under action items, and I'm going to request moving them just to discussion items for us to discuss first. And as I understand it, there's some information about some if that's changed, and then we'll talk about if they need to be action items at the next meeting. But I would like to move those 2 to discussion, please.
Okay, so 9.1 and 9.2, we will move them under 10.1. If that works, Nikki? Anybody opposed to those changes? No? Okay. Thank you. So with those amendments, can I have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda?
Unless anybody else has anything.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Does anybody else have anything to add? No? Okay. So approving is Eden, and second is Lavi. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, the minutes of our last meeting, which was November 3rd, were included in our agenda package. Do we have any corrections, additions, deletions to those minutes? Oh, seeing none. Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Jacqueline? And a seconder, Abby. Thank you. Okay, moving right along, our board update. Over to you, Superintendent Scrivener.
Thank you. Just 1 second. I just need to join our meeting here. So the first item I'd like to share is that EQAO did finally release their data. It was on December the 6th. And so I'm excited to be able to share some of the information that we have. Trustee Saunders. I've already heard this, but it's here again. There we go. So our board continues to, I think just before I start, we have our 4 pillars. This is really reflecting the achieving pillar where we hold high expectations for all. And I'm sure as we listen to the presentation, we'll see that the high expectations continue to be met in this board in Halton Catholic. Some highlights just to kind of consider. We continue to increase our achievement in standards in most grades and subjects assessed, including primary and junior reading, writing, and mathematics, and grade 9 mathematics. And that Halton Catholic District School Board surpasses the province in every area in subject assessed: primary, junior, reading, writing, and mathematics, grade 9 mathematics, and the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test. Just for context, The primary and junior assessments were written in June of last year. So this is the first time we're able to talk about the data as a group because the data was released rather late this year. Grade 9 mathematics, they write twice, once in January and once in June, depending when they have their math class. And we have aligned that with the exam writing period so that there's some kids have as much time as possible to succeed. And then the OSSLT, the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test, has an impact on our students because they need to pass this in order to graduate. They're written twice a year, once in November, once in April. Students do have many chances at succeeding at this, and if they are unsuccessful, they finally can request to take a course instead of taking the test. The grade 9 mathematics for context as well, per ministry directive, 10% of the, up to 30% can be included in a final grade. In Halton Catholic, the practice is that 10% is used towards the final grade of a student. So here's our data. We continue to see an increase in reading, writing, and mathematics, as I mentioned in primary. 84.5% of our students are reading at benchmark. I'm reading that right. And then in reading, in writing, 77.1% of our students are achieving benchmark per EQAO's measures. And in primary mathematics, 75.7%. And so those are increases overall from in all three categories from last year and the year prior. And something to consider here is that what I like about this graph, please don't pay attention too much to before 2019 because a lot of things have changed, including our curriculum, especially in 2024, our curriculum changed. But one thing to keep in mind is that the two lines kind of show that there continues to be a gap that's growing, and this is a good gap to indicate because we continue to surpass the provincial average, but the gap between where our students are achieving and where the provincial average is getting larger, which is a good sign for the students in Halton Catholic. The same trend occurs in reading. For instance, last year we were 8% over the provincial average. This year we're 10%. And the same trend continues in mathematics as well, where we have a 12% gap, where last year we had a 10% gap in primary. And then we go into junior. In junior reading, 90% of our students are reading at benchmark per EQAO measure. 89% are writing at the benchmark standard for in EQAO. And then 61% of our students are achieving at benchmark in mathematics. So for context, again, we have the gap in junior, it's the same thing. We see an increasing gap between ourselves and the provincial average in a good way because our students continue to achieve. Reading being one of the exceptions to this. However, when we're at 90%, I think we're doing okay there. And in mathematics, this is writing. Similarly, we had 5%. And sorry, here's mathematics. And in mathematics, it went to a 10% gap in the last couple of years. We don't measure it the same way in grade 9. Keep in mind that data for grade 9, we had a curriculum revision in 2020, but it was also a very significant moment in the instruction of mathematics in Ontario because we de-streamed the mathematics program as of 2020. So in the past, we would have two pieces of data. We would have applied and academic scores, and now we just have one score based on the de-streamed grade 9 mathematics. So as of last year, 69% of our students are now achieving at benchmark in grade 9 mathematics, compared to 64% last year and the year prior. And you can kind of see that this is a similar story between us and the province, where the gap continues to widen, which is a good story for us. And then in our OSSLT, we have 88% of our students achieving this year at standard. which is a slight shift from last year of 89%. And so that is the story of our EQAO data for this board. We continue to do some work. I had planned, but in the interest of time, I had planned to present the board math plan, but I'm going to save that for next time because I have a few other things to speak about today. Elementary schools. In our elementary schools, teachers will be preparing Term 1 report cards. The PA day for report card writing is on January the 26th. And Term 1 report cards go out February 18th to the 20th, and they are delivered electronically to parents. As we speak right now, summative assessments. So we have some guidance that talks about the most recent data being the most relevant data for our students. So in January, teachers tend to put a little bit more weight into assessment to make sure they have given the student every possible opportunity to show what they know and what they can do. So that's what they're doing right now. And that includes any intervention that might be recurring in order to make sure our children can succeed. And a level will be included on your reading assessment. This was, I think, a new thing last year, as of last year and this year, for primary students, particularly up to grade 2, I believe. They have an indicator of whether your child is reading at the benchmark established by the ministry based on the new curriculum and the right to read inquiry from the Ministry of Education. In secondary schools, in term 2 begins on February the 4th. In secondary school, the first semester will end on January 22nd with exams beginning January 23rd. On January the 29th, there's an exam review day. Semester 2 then starts on February the 2nd. Students, as we speak, are completing culminating assignments as this semester comes to an end and finishing up any new learning they need to have for the exams. In believing, believe it or not, our Jubilee Year of Hope was officially ended by Pope Leo on January the 6th. And if you can imagine, last year at this time, this was still Pope Francis who announced the beginning of the Jubilee Year of Hope. Throughout last year, we had a cross that traveled to all of our schools with a smaller replica door available to students and a journal for each school to document the cross's pilgrimage throughout the Jubilee Year of Hope. A committee of educators, which we're very grateful for, led by Principal Vince Monaco and teacher Lori Dover, planned out a variety of resources that were implemented in our schools. In belonging, our registration for the 26-27 school year continues. New families, if you know of anybody who's looking for a great Catholic school, you'll find one really close by in Halton. New families can register at any time online and they're welcomed into our schools to verify their documents. K open houses were held in the fall to prepare students and parents for the transition for next year in 26-27. And there'll be some follow-up communication about Ready, Set, Go programs and school-based orientations that are taking place in April. New grade 9 registrations continue to attract many students to our high schools. And again, if secondary students are looking for a great secondary school to attend that's Catholic, we have them here in Halton. We have a number of grade 8 students who have now completed all grade 8 students would have completed my blueprint for September 2026. So, if you've got a grade 9 student next year, you already experienced that first part of the transition where you're registering your child and they have their courses selected for next year. Grades 9 through 11 students right now are completing their option sheets over the next few weeks, including any e-learning courses they may be requesting. Under Becoming, January 27th marks United Nations Holocaust Awareness Day. Schools have received a number of materials to commemorate this day. Grade 8 teachers deliver some lessons on the Holocaust as part of their religion and/or language arts program. In secondary schools, teachers deliver lessons on Holocaust during periods 1 or 2. Coming up in February is Black History Month. We share a variety of resources developed through our Human Rights and Equity Office, along with our curriculum department, with our schools. And they'll be celebrating Black excellence in our schools, including a number of symposiums for students. That'll be highlighted in February during Black History Month. That's my report for today. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions for Michael? Bobby.
Thanks very much for the update, Superintendent. CPIC. Currently, to stress that. Okay, yeah, good report. I just wanted to pick up on the EKO. So I see that HCDSB, we did good in terms of the province, but do you have access to any data where we compare our school board with other school boards? Because
Yes.
for me, that would be the real quality. So how do we compare? How do we match up? How does our students do in terms of matching up with other school boards?
I think I always urge caution when we're comparing boards or schools against each other because everybody's on their own journey. So that is to say that we tend to be in the top 1 to 5 of the province in every category based on the data I take a look at. So we tend to do quite well on this board.
We're doing well.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm just picking it up because I feel that accessing quality on the long run has to do with that, because when or if our students get to go out or outside of the school board, how do they compare in terms of the level of knowledge they've gotten, matching up with other heads from every other areas? Good luck.
So the biggest thing that I can always talk about with EQAO is that it puts us on a state of continuous improvement. So every time we get this data, we take a look at all the information that we have available to us, and it contains a wealth of data. So it doesn't just measure our students' abilities relative to the curriculum, but it also asks students surveys. So it talks about confidence in mathematics, their liking to read. We take a look and do analysis on gender sometimes, like, are girls doing better or worse than boys in some areas, or boys doing better or worse in other areas? And we ask a lot of questions, and that's part of my job. I'll be talking about that the next time as the math lead. I talk to principals. In fact, those meetings are happening right now where we say, what do you notice in your data? Where do you think you can improve? A school today I was speaking with said, we noticed from grade 3 to grade 6, we see a significant decline in confidence in mathematics. So we're going to try to address that. So sometimes the answer is, we're going to look at the curriculum and their achievement, but sometimes we're looking at other areas because we know that that's also going to impact their learning. But that is what we try to do with EQAO all the time, which is put us in a state of constant improvement and say, what's next? And as a Catholic organization, we're always looking to make sure we meet the needs of all our learners and celebrate all the successes they have.
Can I give you a bit of analogy I've heard about EQAO? EQAO is like an overhead shot from Google Earth. Here's the big, giant picture. Every school and every board then is on street level. You can't see what everybody else is doing. All you can do is look at yourself and look at what's around. But EQAO kind of does this big aerial shot of everything. So it helps, but it's not the only picture.
You may.
Yeah, I'm. So it's a funny one because there's a lot of angles to EQAO. There's a lot of dimensions to it. So I'll start off by saying I'm one of a few people who have worked at other boards, and Michael has 2, and Anthony has 2, and others as well. And I would say one thing is when I look at these results, I don't think I'd kill for them, but I would probably very happy to my former board to have had the results we have here. I also think it says a lot about the culture of Halton, in that I think parents and staff look at the results and are happy and proud of them, but also want to look to see, okay, what's next? How can we move forward? Which says a lot about, I think, the culture here in a good way. It's a moving target, so it's very hard to do comparisons. It's, the old apples to oranges, or it's like apples to a pine tree. Like they're very different. It is an assessment of the mastery of the curriculum. So it's not a standardized test. So you'll hear people talk about standardized tests, and our research department could probably hold forth in great detail on that. It's not a standardized test. You'll see standardized tests in other ways. Some of you might have your own students assessed, often through special education department with a standardized test. These look at the mastery of the curriculum. good example is the math curriculum in my lifetime as an educator has probably changed 4 times that I can recall. So to compare even over years, it's a tough one because that curriculum 3 years ago was different. 10 years ago was different from that. And then of course, when EQO began, it was different. So it's hard to compare. It has to be very much for a teacher's professional judgment. It's very important to see this is one piece, an important piece of how he or she can measure how your daughter or your son is doing. How does it compare to what she or he is doing in the classroom? There was a professor at OIC named Stephen Katz, and I liked the metaphor he used for a lot of these assessments. You've seen some of those paintings, often the ones that are done by impressionists, where it's like you can see a field, or you can see a windmill, or people walking or something. But when you zero in close, it's just a bunch of little dots, little dabs of paint. He said every one of the assessments that's done is a series of dabs of paint. And together, they emerge to show you a picture of maybe what is close. But that painting of the windmills or a river or something, that's not a windmill or the river. It's just an impression of it. So we're never able to get a perfect sense of it, but it gives you a lot of a stronger sense of where the gaps are and where students need to learn and what we can celebrate. And there's a lot to celebrate. And what we can say, okay, we got to get better at that. The other thing I really liked is the qualitative reporting in it. So every year, my kids a long time ago, when they wrote it, have some of the questions are the same. And the questions are, as a parent, it's funny because often the questions are ones about, does my parent read with me at night or something? I sure hope my kids, told the truth on it because I love to read with kids. But those things are there too. And you can see patterns over time as well. The interesting ones too are the sense of confidence and competence. As someone who's had raised 2 daughters, that sense of confidence as they get into grade 6, 7, 8, heading into high school, those things as a parent, I certainly saw a change, not necessarily for the better in terms of their sense of confidence. And those things are help educators as well. For principals, it's a great way to get a sense of where your school is at. It's just a good way. It's not the gospel, it's not perfect, but it's very, very well done. And it takes them years to get the questions right. If you ever want to have a greater appreciation for what our researchers in at EQO do, to get a sense of the years and months that they will go, they'll do small tests of these, they'll field test them. They have people hit them in terms of or critique it in terms of equity issues, because very often some of the first reading things that kids would have were reading passages that if you were a new person who came from Africa, that means nothing to me. I have no idea what that means. No wonder my kid didn't do as great on it. So we're talking in the 90s and early 2000s. Even those have evolved because the way you write a test or create a test can be have a big impact on a student too. So a lot of attention to that. That's all I'll say on it. I can go on forever. So it's a very important test, and we're very happy with the results, and we just want to get better in every regard. It can empower teachers, empower schools, and empower a board. It's not meant to be a cudgel. It is meant to shine a light on things so we can get better. Just like one test at the doctor's office doesn't say definitively how healthy or not healthy I am. It's part of a battery of tests and a professional, hopefully, giving you having a dialogue with you how you get better.
Thank you. Any other questions for Superintendent Skrobak? No? Okay. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to 5.1 is our trustee update. Over to you, Trustee Saunders.
Thank you very much. There's been 4 meetings since your last CPIC meeting, so I'll touch on some of the more important issues that came up. So on the November 8th board meeting, we elected Marvin Dwart as the chair of the board and Janet O'Hearn-Shanada as the vice chair of the board. In that meeting, we represented the financial statements and the audited financial statements that included what's called a clean opinion, which means everything was done according to the rules. So that's always good to see. So that was a nice presentation. On December the 9th, we had a policy meeting where we elected a new chair of policy, which is Brenda Agnew. In that meeting, we discussed several issues like the governance policy on the policy committee and, how we develop policy. Student trustees, we went through all the requirements to be a student trustee, educational research, how outside the companies would be interacting with the board on research and the parameters around that, and also service animals in the schools. Sort of the policy on that was updated. We also had a very, I guess we call a spirited discussion on a procedural bylaw discussion brought forward by Trustee O'Hearn-Shinada, just on the procedures of voting on action items. So that was a pretty spirited discussion, if you want to see that online. So on December the 16th, we had our regular board meeting. The chair brought forward the celebrations of the Jubilee that have been discussed so far. So a lot of good news, a lot of good pictures, and really nice presentation. We also, this meeting, talked about our estimates for the year coming forward. The very good news was we are running a $4.3 million surplus in the budget, which is, I believe, in contrast to our coterminous board, which I think is running about a $7 million deficit. And if you look, some other boards in the province are running quite significant deficits. So that is good news, and that's compliments to our finance group and I think our oversight on the trustees. So it seems to be working very well. We're doing very well in that area. We also talked about our estimates of enrollment. I believe, and I think I got this right, but I think there's been a 0.05% or increase in enrollment this year. Yeah, it's up. So we're up, but we see this consistent trend where high schools are up, elementary schools are down. So that there seems to be a bit of an issue in that area that is being looked at. But good news is we're up, and I think we're attracting a lot of students from the coterminous boards, I think, because of our programs and the leadership in a lot of our areas. We had our director's update. It was largely very positive. The director talked about Notre Dame. Niagara College had gone, their culinary students had gone to Niagara College and were exposed to some very interesting things. We talked about our skilled trades get hired. We sent students to a seminar about getting hired as in the skilled trades. That was under our achieving, I think. And then under our believing, the director talked about our Advent school programs, keeping Christ in Christmas. We had the special student awards at Corpus Christi that were very successful this year. Normally we have them in the boardroom here, but they expanded them, and apparently it was very good. And the director also talked about theological time, the heroes of hope, the theme of human dignity. Under belonging, unfortunately, the director also told us that our compassionate care and crisis teams have been very busy since October. So I believe we've lost 4 students. Is that right, Director?
4 students and a staff member. We had a key staff member here working in the car who, I want to say, early 40s. She passed, and so it was. But kindergarten, grade 3, grade 11, and a grade 12 student died within a month.
So quite a bit of work, and our compassionate care crisis team was busy and doing quite well. Under becoming, the director talked about the Prime Minister's Award for Teaching with a January 14th deadline. So we'll be, I guess, nominating many teachers for that. And then also just a discussion on our multi-year strategic plan. I think we're a year out from when it was presented, and it seems to be doing well. At this meeting, we also had the EQA results that Superintendent Strickland just presented. Good news all around. The Superintendent of Finance also talked about our 4-year enrollment projections that the province does. And right now we're anticipating having about a 2% increase in students from the current 36,532 to 38,663, with an increase in a large increase in elementary by 3% and an increase in secondary by 5%. So it seems to be reversing the most recent trend. So that's good news. We also got a construction report on Milton number 11, which is, I think we're still working on leveling the ground. There's still quite a bit of work to do on just getting the site ready for construction. At the meeting, we also had a student update and an OXTA update. The students talked about the Student Achievement and Leadership Committee, their Environmental Stewardship Committee. They talked about their Advent themes, their DEI subcommittee, which is trying to start a cultural night, which sounds very interesting. And they also have some Indigenous education training with Ms. Seville, our Indigenous coordinator, and talked about personal land acknowledgements for Oxta. There's the Catholic Education Leadership Series, which is ongoing. And there's also at the end of this week, the trustee seminar in Toronto. Upcoming policy issues, which will be our meeting tomorrow if you're interested. There'll be a presentation on Catholic school support. That's for when you do your income tax or your property tax, you indicate where the funds should go. Home and school transport, we'll have a presentation on the busing, which I think is doing fairly well now. I think we're actually not in deficit in the transport anymore. And there'll be a discussion on the exceptions for instruction in family life programs, fully alive, related to human development and sexual health in accordance with the Ontario curriculum. And finally, we'll be talking about bequests to the school and to the board. So those are the sort of the major highlights that we're looking at. We do have another board meeting next week. I don't think the agenda is out yet, so I'm not sure what issues we'll be discussing. But if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything.
Thank you, Trustee Saunders. Any questions for Trustee Saunders regarding his report? No. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 6.1, we have one presentation this evening. So welcome to Dr. Lisa Collymore. She's going to be talking about our school climate survey.
Give me a second to share a slide deck with you all.
Hey, Keith, can we close that X up there? Just so that we can see the full presentation? Like where does that appear? Is that yours?
Recording and transcription.
Oh.
Like, do you see how the X right there? Yeah.
Thank you.
It's gone.
Oh, you can do it from there? Amazing. Thank you.
It's from there. So thank you so much for welcoming us tonight. My name is Dr. Lisa Collymore, and I'm sorry, I can't see the sun here. I am the Chief Research Officer here at Halton Catholic, and I'm here with my colleague Zoe, and we will be presenting the results of the 2025 School Climate Survey. Before we start, though, this is sort of an outline of our presentation. We're going to start by letting this group know, like, what is school climate? What do we mean when we talk about school climate? We will briefly touch on our methodology. So who participated in the survey, what it looked like, how it was done. We'll go over some of the results. The survey is quite comprehensive, so we're not going to be presenting all of the results tonight, but we will provide a snapshot from each of the various sections. And then finally, we'll end with where you can find the public reports, both board level and school level. So to start, let me just grab my notes here, of course. So to start, when we talk about school climate, we are using sort of the Ministry of Education's definition, which broadly defines school climate as the learning environment and relationships that are found within a school and school community. And the board is actually required to offer a school climate survey every 2 years to our community. So we offer this survey to our students in grades 4 through 12, to our school-based staff, and also to our parents. And the ministry's definition really focuses on things that influence the learning environment, things that are related to preventing inappropriate behavior. So they tend to focus on things like safety, inclusion, relationships, engagement, equity, and even teachers having these high expectations for our students. When the research department took on this initiative or this collection, I really wanted to ensure that we fully understood what was meant by school climate. So as researchers do, we did a deep dive into the literature to really understand the idea behind school climate. And we landed on the work of Wang and DeGaulle, who had reviewed many, many thousands of papers. And essentially, this framework suggests that school climate is much more multidimensional and interactive than the ministry's definition. And so it really includes multiple domains: community, safety, academics, how the environment looks, the physical environment, health and well-being. And those together really are influencing the school environment and ultimately impacting the students' outcomes. And so when we were putting together the survey, we kept these domains in mind. And those dark blue boxes are sort of the sub areas in which we wanted to make sure that the items on the survey reflected the area. So for example, within community, the first domain there, we looked for items that were reliable and valid, that would measure things like quality of relationships between teachers and students, and teachers and teachers, sorry, students and peers. We looked at partnerships. We looked at how connected students were feeling. We looked at respect for diversity. And of course, we were interested in our Catholic learning environment and how that influences the environment and how that influences outcomes. For the 2025 cycle, institutional environment was a new domain that we added. That availability of resources is a common topic that comes up, so that was added for the 2025 cycle. Health and well-being, the last domain there, isn't necessarily part of Wang and DeGaull's framework, but it is part of the Ministry of Education's priorities for our school board. And so we did add a health and well-being section, which looks at things like mental health supports, their overall well-being, and risky behaviors for certain students. So in terms of our methodology, this is to remind you, this survey was actually done in 2024-25. So this was done in April of 2025. And like I mentioned, it was offered to all of our students in grades 4 through 12, our school-based staff, and our parents and guardian group. And we had a really good response rate in 2025. We heard from over 21,000 respondents in total. Now, the majority of those were from our students, and then we heard from about 1,200 staff and about just under 3,000 parents. And each group saw a different version of the survey. So elementary students saw a version appropriate to their developmentally appropriate age group. The secondary students saw their own particular survey with various questions related to their grade group. And it was also, we also accommodated the survey. So there were different versions depending on the student's need. And there was one staff survey for all staff who worked in schools who are part of the community. And then there was one survey for parents or guardians. Again, questions would differ depending on the panel in which you suggested or you said that you were part of. The students completed the survey with their teachers during class time, and our staff and our parents were invited to participate in the survey via email. I'm going to throw it over to Zoe, but what we will be presenting today are the results of the student survey. So that's what we will be highlighting in the next few slides.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. So as Lisa mentioned, there's multiple domains, and the first one I'll talk about is community. So under community, one of the subdomains was quality of relationships. And for this subdomain, it was measured by 2 scales. One was relationships with your adults and your teachers at the school, and the other one was relationships with peers. So the relationship with teachers asked if students felt that adults at their school liked them, respected them, listened to them, and cared about them. And the relationship with other students or their peers asked if students felt that other students were respectful and friendly towards them and liked and cared about them. So our students reported strong, positive relationships at school overall, as you can see. Most elementary students at 87% reported a high quality of relationships with their teachers and staff. And 83 of those students, or of elementary students, felt the same way about the relationship with their peers. And for secondary students, they had similar views. 82% felt that they had positive relationships with their teachers and their staff at their school, and 92% had positive relationships with their peers. And do note that this is a slight increase from the last cycle that we did for school climate, so that is positive. For the next subdomain of connectedness, we used a scale to understand students' sense of belonging or inclusion, asking if they enjoyed school and felt accepted by peers and staff. So as you can see, 80% of elementary and 77% of secondary students indicating having a positive sense of belonging. And that's a slight decrease for elementary students and about the same for secondary students from our last cycle. We also asked students if they felt that their identity was positively reflected in 5 different aspects of school, like school spaces, events, and activities. So the percentages here show the range of negative responses related to the 5 aspects. So the percentage of those who did not feel that their identities were positively reflected. I want to stress that because last time we reported it the other way. We reported it those that felt that they were positively reflected. So we did switch it around. And I'll get to why in a moment. And of the 5 aspects of school, the most selected aspect was pictures, posters, and displays. So about a third of students in both panels felt that their identity was not positively reflected in pictures, posters, and displays. So the reason that we presented the negative this time was that students who said that their identity was not positively reflected were then asked a follow-up question to ask about what aspect of their identity was not being positively reflected. So the students that responded to this question selected abilities and ethnic, cultural, or racial background, and the catch-all of other identities. So moving on to the added subdomain of our Catholic school community, and this aligns with our believing pillar. So the homeschool parish connection scale included 4 items, asking if students felt that their school promotes Catholic virtues, values, and practices, and encourages faith-based activities. So as the slide here indicates, a high proportion of students felt this way, that their school did promote Catholic virtues, values, and practices. And this was a slight increase from the last cycle. And the respondents were also asked about their school's spiritual atmosphere. And around 82% of elementary and 80% of secondary students answered positively to this question. So jumping into our next domain is safety. We asked about their physical and social emotional safety, and this was measured with one key main question about how safe do you feel at school. So we found that most students, 77% and 78%, reported feeling high levels of safety at school, and these responses were very similar to the last cycle. The survey also included several questions about bullying and their perceptions and experiences with that. So for example, to understand the prevalence of bullying in our schools, we asked students if they were bullied in the past month. And we saw that 22% of elementary and 13% of secondary said that yes, they were bullied in the past month at school. And note that a definition was provided so that everyone was on the same page as to what bullying meant. And then for those that said that yes, they were bullied within the last month, they were then asked a follow-up question about the frequency of different types of bullying. And again, examples were provided. So of the respondents who did experience bullying, most students in the panels said that they were bullied verbally and or socially at least once. And then just the slight difference that the next main type of bullying for elementary was physical, whereas in secondary it was cyberbullying. And we did switch up how we asked these questions this time. So these results are not comparable to the last cycle, just as an additional note there. And academics is our next domain. The learning environment subdomain is a scale that had 5 items, including if students felt the teachers noticed their hard work and provided meaningful and engaging lessons. So we found that most respondents felt positively about their learning environment, 82% of elementary and 78% of secondary, which is very similar to our last cycle. And next under academics, we had engagement with learning. And this scale was only asked to grade 7s to 12s. And it asked if they felt that they were trying their best in school and were taking responsibility for their learning. So we found that 91% in both panels, so the 7/8s and then the secondaries, indicated being engaged with their learning, which was again about the same as the last cycle.
In the next domain of institutional environment, so this was the first year that these questions were added, and we added questions pertaining to availability of resources, mainly because We know that it's an important aspect within the school climate, but also because it has come up in other data collection initiatives. And so we asked the students 2 items, how much they agree about the availability of different resources in school. So the first question asked specifically about materials in school, and the second asked about technology for learning in schools. And you can see here that in both panels, most respondents agreed that their school is providing enough materials and technology needed for learning. Moving on to just our final domain of well-being. We are focusing here on mental health supports and the 3 items that were included in this section. So you'll see that 71% of elementary students and 56% of secondary students are reporting that they are aware of supports and programs that are available to help students with positive well-being. The second line there shows that 77% of elementary versus 69% of secondary students reported that they agree that they have at least a teacher or an adult at school whom they can count on to help them. And finally, that last item there was actually a new item this cycle. 67% of elementary and secondary students saying that they are agreeing that they are learning how to care for their mental health at school. So although these numbers here are lower than some of the other numbers we've shared tonight, they are still on the positive side of agreement, but certainly highlight some area of growth for the board department. This part of the presentation sort of wraps up the highlight of the results of the school climate survey from the last cycle for the students. And it's important for you all to know that we have been sharing these results across the system. So we started with our senior team, we started with our school administrators, and now we are moving on to board committees like yourself. So again, thanks for having us. And it's really just important to know that these data points are being used even by our CEC departments. We shared them with the curriculum department, with human rights and equity, with our mental health leads. So all of these teams have seen these results and actually see more results than this and are using them for planning purposes and next steps in their respective portfolios. I know there was a lot here tonight, and so it's often helpful for you to sit with results on your own. So the next slide just highlights where you can find the board level results for your own reading pleasure. So if you go to the board website under schools, there's a school climate survey link, and there's a page. And the right side of there kind of shows you, it's broken up by the different surveys. So the blue is will have the student survey results. The green is the parents, and the orange there is the staff results. It's not all of the results, but there are highlights from the various surveys, and they are basically one-page infographics that are available that will highlight the board level results. Now you're probably wondering, well, it's great, Lisa, that these are board level results, but what about the actual schools and the climates within each of the various schools? So as I mentioned, the school administrators have also received their school level results. They've seen a high level summary via an infographic, but they've also have access to an internal report where they can use various filters. They can look by grade. And the idea really is that they are using that internally with their school planning teams to work on their school achievement plans and school improvement efforts, etc. But for you and for the community, you can find the school level results also on each school's website. So you just go to your school's website, you go to the About tab at the top, and there should be a subsection that says School Climate Survey there. And there's an infographic posted there for, for yourselves and for others in your community who wish to know what the school climate looks like at that particular school. And so, as I mentioned, it's super important that if you do have any questions, you can reach out to your school administrator, or of course, you can reach out to myself or our teammates, and we're happy to answer any questions about the survey. But thanks again for your attention tonight. I do want to stress that we wouldn't have all this useful information if it wasn't for the students and the parents and the staff who take the time to fill it out. And it really does help inform various things that we do here at the board table. A lot of these indicators are included in how we monitor our multi-year strategic plan and other strategic plans that we have across the system. So just a thank you for having us and your attention tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have any questions?
Question, comment, I don't know. It's not a question. And some sort of question or comment. Good survey. First off, I don't know if I missed that part. How often does this happen? Every year, I suppose?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years. Fantastic. Okay. The numbers are good. Very good. However, we can't really say, and this is to Director Klein, obviously, and Superintendent CPIC, we can't say we're winning if we're still having double digits in terms of negative feedbacks. So for those two areas, the bullying and then the percentage of students that feel they're not being represented, whatever it is that we can do, I don't know, I would have expected, or I suppose, I believe, obviously you guys are doing your thing, but I would expect that there are even more in-depth data that drills down to particular areas or maybe family of schools where you kind of pick up some of these figures. So, I mean, some effort needs to be put in place to ensure that these numbers really go down. If we have single digits, we can start having the feeling of winning, or like we're doing something really. Eden and I are on the bullying and bullying prevention subcommittee. And obviously this is part of some of the things that has to be done to ensure that bullying really stays to the low. If we're still having a number above 20%, I think it's still high, still high. My son comes in and then he tells me, this is the step on the side. He says they call him short, too short. I says, I'm too short. And then he told me that he doesn't want to go to school. And yeah, he's right there in the meeting. Is another wrong day. So that's how much he feels, because he's feeling embarrassed already. I mean, look at me. I'm 41. And imagine what my 9-year-old would be like, right? So really be in the heart. So I'm just saying, this is from a personal perspective. So we need to do more when we have specific data that speak to families of schools where we're having maybe some high numbers. We might want to put in some more effort to ensure that things are a bit, done better. I was going to take up the conversation with the school principal to help us, do some sort of intervention, but I've not done that. But I just had to chip it in because this discussion came up and stuff like that. So,
well, thank you for that. And I want to first of all say two things. I want to start by saying thank you to our research department. So when I went back about EQAO results, and when we would have former board I was at, we also didn't have what we have here, like a really adept, coherent, a team that tries to work with different. There's a lot of little silos, right? To work with math and connect it with mental health, and then Lisa's at the senior table with us, right? Mm-hmm. So that's anybody who kind of help us connect the dots is good. The other one too is you'd expect a learning organization would try and focus on research and not just whims or trends or something. And she and Zoe and the team help keep us honest in that regard, because facts still matter, despite what happens out in the world where facts don't matter anymore. Facts matter. I want to say too that what you were sharing was really heartrending, because when I first began teaching, my principal said to me, it was first parent-teacher interviews. I was like, okay, what's this going to be like? I remember he said something. He wasn't the wise. It was surprising me. But it's one thing I still remember about what he said. He said, you're going to have an experience where the mom or dad that's in front of you are going to maybe get emotional. And I want you to always remember that sometimes the last time they were in front of a teacher was when they were a kid. And maybe that experience wasn't that great. I still remember that, because it was just, and so you do get those every so often. So, and with our parents, I mean, or our kids, like nothing is more important than our children. So their pain is almost doubly felt by us as parents. So that is heartrending. And some of those stats too made me kind of go, I can detach, right? As a director, I can detach from the dad in me, but it made me think, if I was a teacher or a principal, I wonder what that would just push me or nudge me toward. The one that struck me was the one where kids said, and it was positive, right? Yes, there's someone in the school that I feel I can connect with, but there was a lot there that, like, I would hope that'd be 100,
Yeah.
right? So, because sometimes it's the coach doesn't even, or it's the bus driver or the right? You'd think somebody, right? And so those to me as a principal, because power of principals is so amazing, that would be one to kind of go, I wonder, what are we gonna do about that? And it could just be what's your goal this year as a grade 3 teacher? Or what are you gonna, some schools have done it where they collectively take care of kids, right? They kind of go, I don't teach him, but I'll be the one to connect with him every day. Just say, how's it going? Sometimes that is better. It's like raising a family. Sometimes an aunt or an uncle can make more headway with your daughter or your son than you can, right? So something like that. I think this is, again, some dabs of paint that will allow a picture to kind of emerge. So yeah, I was impressed that, and I'm sorry that's the experience. No, but it's important that, and that's part of a conversation that I think, because if the principals or teachers would know that, I know they would respond with their heart. Lisa?
I will just add that the data has been shared with the superintendent of safe and accepting schools. So they are working with the data as well to make plans for change. But I'm happy to come and present at other board level committees. So that I know there is a bullying prevention committee. We could certainly come to that group and present. We have more data than we did share here that's particular around bullying. And so if that's a particular need, we can certainly do that as well to support the dissemination of these findings. So
it also reinforces for anybody in a school, the teachers and principals, but also for our resource department here, and for Linda, who's our script name, obviously chief librarian, because there's many books coming out now. But it just would, for her, I know her, she would have a passion. This would just be one more thing to say, when I'm picking literature, I want this literature to reflect the kids that are actually learning it, right? Particularly the growing population that come from that with roots in Africa and the Caribbean. So now, and you do see more now than years ago. But I think that's important, the acquisition of resources, and then for all of us to work on pedagogy, could be instruction, could be our way we assess students that might be sensitive to that and reflect it. We've certainly seen it with Indigenous ways of learning with our kids who are First Nations or Métis or Inuit, because even the approach to science and math was a little more nuanced to it in terms of some instructional strategies and some materials as well. That might be particular for that group, but also for all kids might be better. Sorry to dominate the airwaves here, but
Thank you.
these are important.
Any other questions? I have one actually, Dr. Collmore. When you were showing us that sort of flow chart, if you will, at the beginning with all those different domains, and then you spoke about how the surveys weren't all the same, depending on who the audience was and what their needs were. Would you say, though, that all of those domains were covered in each survey, but maybe the language and how it was presented was different, but all of those aspects were asked of every student, parent, or staff?
Thanks for the question. Yes. So to clarify, yes, all of those domains were included in each version of the survey. What my different versions is the questions were tailored to the developmental appropriateness of the age group. So certain questions were asked a certain way to the younger students than they were to the older students. And some questions were only asked to the older students. So it just depended on the age group. And then, of course, the child's ability to be able to answer the questions.
Perfect. My other question, I probably should know the answer to this, but I don't. this climate survey, is this a mandated thing by the province? Like all school boards do this?
So the results provincially can be looked at too. So the province can get a sense of how things are across this province. Do you want to mention not just that, but how we work in collaboration and concert within the region of Halton as well?
Sure. So because our coterminous board also offers a school climate survey, we collaborate with our Kids Network, which is the regional partner, and they provide a report using both boards' data to provide a picture of what it looks like in Halton for grade 7s and grade 10s. So I suspect that now that we have shared our results and the coterminous board will be sharing their last cycle's results, that OCAN will take the data, merge them together, will align it to their priorities, and then share the results for Halton region, grade 7s and 10s next year.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for your attention, everyone.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna propose that maybe we take like a 2-minute break, if that's okay with everybody. Welcome back. Thank you again to Adam for bringing in those treats. We are going to move along in our agenda. So we are on 7.1, which is CPIC subcommittees, and the first one is bylaws.
That would be Jackie Finley. No, we've not met. I know Jackie had asked for some feedback on the existing bylaws. That's all I have.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, there was feedback. I mean,
Yeah, so but I think,
yeah,
yeah, we haven't really been.
yes, yeah.
Okay, so we'll follow up with Jackie when she's back next week.
Yes.
Okay. Parent and Community Engagement Committee, who is speaking to that update? Adam?
Yeah, I can speak. So we're all set for the vaping session coming up on January 22nd. And after that, our next event will be on February 26th. And that is also virtual, the Job Talk Straightway Pathways that Labby's been working on. So he has a confirmed speaker, John Gallagher. See that?
Yeah.
And he's going to follow up with Nikki to, for the announcement requirement.
Perfect. And those are both virtual, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. Is that it for you guys? Thank you. Okay, School Council Support Committee, that is myself. So we have a Let's Connect, our second of the year coming up. It's this Wednesday, the 14th at 7 p.m. So that's virtual. Social media posts have gone out by Becca, so thank you. Nikki sent out the official invite. It is virtual, so and of course open to any councils or council members. I think that's it for us. Moving on to social media. Becca, over. Becca?
Guide. Let's Connect. The vaping and cell phone went up to. I mean, I love what you made, but I made it a reel. I made it like a bunch of different kind of ones so that it catches more attention. I will share what you made though in a few next week because it's not till the week after, right? So it'll be refreshed in everybody's mind. All we got.
And thank you, Becca, for all of the Advent posts that you did.
I missed the
They were
fourth
fan-
week and I missed Christmas, but like my daughter and I got on break and cold. And then my fridge died on December 23rd. Helpful. Thank God it's winter and we had a cooler on the back deck.
Oh.
But my daughter asked for deck milk. I was like, oh,
Milk.
deck milk. So we needed a new one. So it was a little hectic. So I'm sorry.
They were lovely.
I
though.
missed,
They
I'm
were so
sorry I
great.
missed the other ones.
Thank you so much for all your work with that.
It's a toilet beer.
Bullying prevention and intervention.
Hey, we've not had any meetings.
Okay.
We had the break in December, so I think we should be having something.
Coming up. So an update next month for us. Perfect. Thank you, Labby. Folks on Faith Council.
We are meeting again in February.
Perfect. So an update next month.
Yep.
Homeschool Parish. Nothing yet. Okay. And Journey with Jesus, I'm assuming Anna, nothing yet, right? A little bit early for that. Ready? Mental health.
Next meeting is the It's scheduled for, I want to say it's February. I can't remember the date off the top of my head.
Awesome. School year calendar, that is myself and Jackie, who's not here, so I'll speak to it. School year calendar committee has met twice, November 12th and December 9th. For those of you who are not familiar, at that table is a wide variety of players. So I'm there as a parent. There's principals, teachers, union reps. Our transportation folks are there. And mainly it's to come together to figure out what our calendar is going to look like for the coming year and the need for all those players, as well as conversations with Halton District is the fact that we share transportation, right? So we have to come to a consensus on what days we are going to come to school, because otherwise we fit the bill for 100% of those buses if we don't have the same PA days and things as them. So I'm happy to say that at this point, the calendar is finalized. It is going before the Board of Trustees as a staff report on January 20th. And then will be up for approval at their February 17th meeting. And then once that takes place, it will hopefully go to the ministry for approval on the 1st of March. So I think typically, historically, it goes out to parents once all that's done around March breakish, right? I think is our goal.
You have to, officially, you need to wait for the
response.
ministry to give their thumbs up, and that
And take time.
happens when it happens. But when that happens, then yeah, we'd say, there you go, there's your year.
So it will come out by email once it is got the final stamp of approval from the ministry.
But it's a wonky year, right?
It is a
Because
wonky year.
of Where,
Labor Day is very late this year, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the latest it can be.
Yeah.
So that just throws off the timing a bit.
Just one more trip.
Yeah.
Well, they're giving schools.
So summer's longer. There, see?
Yeah.
10 weeks.
Okay, so that's it for school year calendar. Moving on to community updates. OAPC. So
Oh, absolutely, yes. So still getting my feet wet as this year's new director of Halton. We have a date for our conference. So our conference is going to be Saturday, April 16th, and it's in neighboring Mississauga, which is a lot easier because last year it was Niagara. So we're encouraging people to attend. You don't necessarily have to be an OAPC representative to attend to the conference. Anyone can. Any parent within Halton Catholic can attend. It's a great day. Keynote speakers, a little bit of a retreat. Definitely more to come on that. So I'm still getting to know all of the Halton reps, and I can honestly say such a vibrant community. Wonderful parents, wonderful guardians. Definitely, they're so strong and so dedicated in faith-based education, and they're very dedicated and proud to be part of the Halton Catholic, definitely. Also, that being said, working with other directors across Ontario, as OAPC Services Ontario, getting to know other directors, I can say that we are admired. Halton Catholic is definitely admired. No one has anything bad to say about us. And yeah, it's a lovely feeling to say that I represent Halton, and everyone just, wow. And they will just say all of these wonderful, lovely comments. And it's just, it's lovely. It's, yeah. So keep up the great job.
did I hear you say April 16th for conference?
Yeah, April 16th. So it's a Saturday.
Awesome. Thank you.
16. There is a small fee. There's a small fee because there is a lunch and there's keynote speakers, but yeah, it's definitely not a lot, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And Anti-Black Racism Steering Committee.
Jill, in her regrets, just said the committee did not meet in December. She'll have an update at the next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. We've amended our agenda, so there are no longer action items. So we're moving on to discussion items. So the first one is 10.1, which is our February 11th Council of Chairs meeting. That is taking place at Holy Trinity in Oakville. Do we have a draft agenda yet, Nikki? Not yet. Okay, I can speak to it from my head. So our first presentation is going to be done by CETA. And I believe it's the action plan to address disproportionalities, correct? So CETA will be doing the first half of that evening, which is going to lead nicely into an inclusion activity. So sort of like what we've done historically. We've had like a little bit of a break where we do a group activity. So Lauren's going to take the lead on that. She may need help. So
I'll reach out if I need some help. CETA sent me the activity. She said it's one that they do that focuses on inclusion and what makes everybody unique. I read through it. It sounds like a great activity for us to do for council chair. So I was just like, yep, I'm going to go ahead and steal that. I just need to go through and double check I need everything. But Nikki, I might send you some stuff to order if I need it. And I'll reach out if I need a hand getting it organized. From what I remember from it, that was pretty straightforward.
Perfect. So that will be our group activity. And then our second half of our evening will be a presentation from Jeff Pearl. And I believe that's on the board's perspective in terms of AI. So we had a presenter from CPIC do, on behalf of CPIC, do a parent engagement session, which is more of a general AI. This is going to be more the board's take on it and what we're doing in terms of embracing AI and guidelines, things like that. So I think it'll be a great evening. We are looking for, of course, volunteers to do land acknowledgement, opening and closing prayer. So I'll send something out to you guys if anybody wants to volunteer to help us out with that. The expectation, of course, is that everyone shows up early to help Nikki, Michael, and the rest of us set up. So if you could kind of be there 6:15, 6:30, whatever works for your schedule. And of course, if you can't come for setup, please stick around for cleanup. Okay.
And this one is at Trinity.
Holy Trinity in Oakville.
So Trinity in Oakville. The assumption is that it will be in person. If the weather is looking dodgy, we'll make a call probably the day before to shift it to virtual. But the plan right now is that it will be in person.
Any questions about council chairs? No. Okay. So the next two items were things that sort of Lauren and I have been thinking about, just sort of reflecting on our time as chairs and involvement in CPIC, and with our upcoming elections for the people that will be, their term is up and they need to rerun. So generally that process starts like March, so that we have our new folks elected and we can share and celebrate those individuals at our last council of chairs in May. So we have two sort of things that we wanted to propose to you, but Michael's also shared some information that might put some hiccups in that. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura just to sort of talk about what we were thinking.
So the two items that kind of go hand in hand. So the first one is just around the number of people that we are around this table. So currently we are 10 elected members, 3 from Oakville, 3 from Burlington, 3 from Milton, 1 from Halton Hills. And in particular, in the last 2 years, as this committee has taken on more work, we've done more presentations. We have the social media side of things now. We have this little bylaw side project. It's a lot of work for 10 people. I know, this is my 4th year on CPIC, and I will admit I was not prepared for the amount of work it was when I first joined, and I think I'm not alone in that realization. It is a lot of work to be on this committee. And when Janelle and I were talking, we kind of, the number of times over the last year and a bit, we've just said, oh my God, we need more hands. We just need more bodies to help. So what we wanted to propose to put out to the group, and this is just an idea we had, this is open for discussion. We're not like making decisions on our own, but we wanted to put out to the group to increase that membership from 3331 to 4442. So it would add 2 more, so add 1 person to each of the 4 municipalities, which brings our voting members to 14, which would just spread the work out a little bit more. We would need to do it over the course of 2 years because our terms, as you know, are 2-year terms. And they're set up so that it's 5 elected. There's 5 seats that come up for election 1 year, 5 seats the following year. So to add 4 seats, we need to add 2 municipalities 1 year, 2 municipalities the following year. So it would be a little bit unbalanced for 1 year, but it's just necessity for how we go about this. So that's the first piece. Now, as I understand, Michael spoke to Janelle before. So CPIC each school board is required to have a parent engagement committee. Broadly referred to as just as a PIC if you're in the public board, and a CPIC if you are in the Catholic board, just adding on the Catholic to the front of it. generally speaking, boards, from my understanding, and somebody can correct me if I have this wrong, boards can choose the membership numbers based on what works for their board. So there's some boards that have large committees, some that have smaller committees, just depends on the size of the board. I looked up, Michael, I looked up the procedure, the VI 84. It's actually currently not correct. It has the 2 from each municipality, which is 2 Oakville, 2 Burlington, 2 North Halton, which has Milton and Halton Hills combined, and then 4 at-large positions, which makes it the 10, but that's the old makeup.
The
new.
I'm looking at like.
Maybe I managed to. Okay,
Yeah,
did I manage
off the board website.
Okay, I pulled an old one. I'm very
It has
sorry.
the 3.
Okay, so in order for us to change our membership, that procedure that sits at the board level has to change, and that would have to get changed by board staff and approved by board trustees, I believe, right? No, procedure doesn't have to get board
Through board staff.
So board staff would have to change procedure. So I'm not sure how the timing of all of that works. That's
It involves superintendent, but
yeah, it's a bigger conversation. So
And probably won't happen in time for our elections, which are going
Yeah.
to start to be advertised and promoted in March.
yeah, so our initial thought was that we would hopefully vote on it at the next meeting, and then we'd be able to put the change in place for March. That's not going to happen. What Janelle and I would like to propose instead is to word the change in such a way that basically we just say, instead of just we're going to make this change unilaterally, which we can't, to word it as almost like a request to the board for the board to do what they need to do to make the change at our request. That
yeah,
cool if we do it that
So
way?
recommendations
you
for
would start the journey that way.
So basically, we would bring it as an action item to the next meeting, that if everybody is in agreement to change the membership, and like I said, happy to have this conversation, as this was an idea that we had. But if it does go forward, to then word the motion such that we just request the board to allow us to make this change, and then they have to do what they have to do on our end, and then we can make the change. So the change might not happen until starting next year, but anyway. So I wanted to throw that out to this table for any thoughts or feedback or anything.
Yeah, I might have.
Bobby, go ahead.
I mean, I'm on steroids too. When I saw the agenda, a couple of thoughts came into my head, and the questions were that, don't we have a procedure for amending processes like these and stuff? So I looked into the bylaw. I didn't see anything that clearly states how we intend to amend our process, maybe change formation and things like that.
So our
I'm
bylaw,
going to look at it from that.
so our bylaw, Labby, doesn't say anything about like the numbers. We control our bylaws. The problem is in our procedure, which sits at the board level, it actually specifies numbers. So we can't just add and go against the procedure, right? Because the procedure now says 3 from here, 3 from here, 3 from here, 1 from here. So that would need to be increased at that level for us to then amend our bylaws. We can't just amend ours because then they won't match,
I
right?
get that part, yeah.
Okay.
I get all of that. I'm only saying that internally, I mean, within CPIC, do we just we should have procedures for making amendments, adjustments.
So we very
today
loosely follow what happens at the board level, which is something is brought as a discussion item. And then following a discussion, then a formal motion is tabled to actually enact the change, and that's what gets voted on.
Okay.
So
Very high level.
in the bylaws, there's a paragraph about 4 sentences to 5 sentences long that articulate how to do the how an amendment to the bylaws would happen. And in there, it states exactly that. Then this committee has the option to send it to council chairs for feedback. They may or may not do that, at which point the next meeting is when the vote happens and a 2/3 majority is required to amend the bylaws. So it's not like spelled out in bullet points, but it is in a paragraph within the bylaws.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I said. The first step would just be passing a motion that.
So the initial concern for me was the fact that it was sitting as an agenda item. So it looked to me my understanding then was that it's already concluded, it's done and dusted. We just want to bring it into the meeting.
Which
And
is
you
why we
counted that the
amended it.
first thing, yeah.
Yeah, which is why we
So-
amended it initially, because when Janelle and I first when we did agenda setting with Michael, we'd been talking about it. We said, okay, we'll put it on an action item, we'll talk about it, we'll do a vote. And then afterwards we were like, we didn't do this right, but the agenda had already gone out. So once the agenda goes out, we can't make a change like that without bringing it to the board and doing it with the little mini vote the way that we did it. So that was why it went down the way it did. That was an oversight on our part.
The second concern for me would be having crisscrossing responsibilities and overlaps. When the numbers begin to increase and you have too many people there, there's likely going to be overlaps in terms of who's doing what, who's not doing what. Have we thought about that?
I'm honestly, I'm not sure I follow, because everything that we've experienced is we always just seem to have not enough bodies for the amount of work that there is. Like if you think about the Sabbath presentation, we were scrambling to get people to come out just because of with people's schedules. Some people were away, people had their kids and their extracurriculars and everything. And we had to kind of scrape a little bit and have people change around their schedules to be able to come out. And that was part of that one was partly what triggered this conversation with me and Janelle, where we were just like, oh my God, we need more people on this committee to just help support some of these events and some of these initiatives.
The other thoughts? Abby?
I think it's a great idea because I just joined, but I still think it's a lot of work. However, my question is, how long does it take the trustees to decide if they approve it or not?
How long does it take to?
If we wanted to make this change, how long would we be looking at to have this?
5.
Oh, minimum trust
I'm
meeting,
concerned
so
that
have to go to
it should be the one.
policy. I would say you'd be looking at 2 meetings.
It would be the procedure though. The policy, if I remember correctly, the policy just says membership determines as needed. The policy doesn't have numbers in it. It's the procedure that specifically has the
Just the
numbers. in
procedure?
it. Just the procedure.
I need to talk to Abby, like it's a little.
They
more
are
complicated
connected
than
now,
that
so we
because,
want to-
yeah,
No, I know they're
we're on a
connected,
cycle
but
for it, so that's why I want to just check with them before I make any commitments.
okay.
I can get back to.
I was gonna say, can I maybe request you get back to us on that, and then we can.
My thought is that it won't
happen. in
adding
time
to
for this
complement won't happen for this election if we were in agreement to move forward with it because of just the timing, right? Like we're already in January and communications go out like the first week in March, right? So for sure it wouldn't happen this year, but if we were in agreement that this is something we wanted to pursue, it would happen for the following year. Yeah.
So, anybody have any other comments on that first piece with the membership numbers? Okay, so if you could let us know on that one, and Janelle and I will put together some wording around a motion that makes a request, and we'll share it in advance. So that was the first piece. The second piece, and this is something that this suggestion is not new to me and Janelle. This has come up. This suggestion predates even when I joined CPIC 4 years ago. And it's something that, as far as I understand, has been thrown around as something to put into the membership requirement to put yourself forward as an elected member on CPIC. And it's never been in there, but I want to kind of bring it up again because I'm curious to know to people's thoughts. So right now, the requirement to sit on CPIC is that you have to have a kid in the board. And you have to be a representative in the area where you live. So you can't live in Burlington to be a representative in Oakville. And as soon as your kid is no longer in Halton Catholic, you are no longer eligible to sit as a parent on the committee. Even if you join and your kid is in grade 12, even though you're on a 2-year term, you're then not eligible to do your second term. So, so one thing that we wanted to throw out there in terms of the requirement, and this is I'm trying to be very intentional with how I word this. I don't want to offend anybody or rustle any feathers, but this, as we've said, this committee is a lot of work. it takes a little bit of knowledge of how school councils work, of how the board works, of some of these internal processes. And it can be challenging, especially with the workload, to have people who get elected who don't have any experience with any of that. So what Janelle and I were thinking, and like I said, this has been thrown around a number of times, and I'm very curious for people's thoughts, is to add a requirement to put yourself forward to be a member of CPIC, is that you have to have served 1 year on your school council, or a school council if your kids are in multiple schools, on a school council for 1 year in the previous 5. And like I said, the reason for that is because sitting on council gives you a different insight into how schools work behind the scenes, how fundraising is done. And in particular, if you're a chair on that council, now the requirement is not to be a chair, but the chairs attend our council of chairs, they get some idea of what CPIC is and what CPIC does. They bring it back to their councils. The councils have some idea of CPIC, even if it is just slightly arm's length. We were just thinking, does that bring people in who could hit the ground running a little bit quicker? Like I said, it's an idea that's been thrown around. My intention is not to offend anybody, because I'm pretty sure there's people here who would not hit that requirement, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm just wondering if it is a good idea going forward. And like I said, Janelle and I throw this around, and I'm going to zip it now and throw it out to questions and thoughts.
I mean, the changes does not affect the people that are currently sitting here.
No.
I think
it would just be going forward.
Yeah, because I think it's a great idea. Honestly, like when I first wanted to join, I thought one of the requirements should be that being on the council at least before coming on. That's what I thought, and then later I find out it's not a requirement. So I think it's a great idea.
Just for clarity, we're saying a voting member. So because there is the ability to be part of a council, but you're not the voting member. So,
yeah, so this would be to put your name forward to be elected onto CPIC as a voting member.
No, he's meaning,
the
you
previous experience, the expectation would be that you're a voting member of the council.
meaning you officially join.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you are actually on your council's.
Not
Yes, you are
observer.
considered. Yes,
Because
yes. I'm
sometimes
sorry.
people may attend and say, well, I'm a member of the council, but
No. You have to be an actual voting member.
Filled out the
Yeah.
package, signed the ethics, all that, yes.
Do I have a, yeah, I'd just be concerned with that, because now you've got to, get on that group, that board, and maybe you don't have a good relationship with them. You never get an opportunity, and that's going to prevent you from getting on to CPIC. So I'm a little concerned. It's almost like a 2-step process to get here. So I think it would be one of the good things about CPIC is you just get a broad membership from people all over the place. So I would think that, like, from my point of view, that would be good.
Out of curiosity, and I was hoping one of you might be able to answer this one, how often do school councils have to actually do elections for people to sit on their Catholic school council?
I was thinking the same thing. We haven't
Almost
had
never.
one in a long time.
Yeah, okay, that's
So
what I thought. It's
typically,
almost never. If you put your name
Most
forward,
people
you're
are appointed and
okay.
the Superintendent Denalfo in the past would say, keep it around 20 so you can include as many people as possible.
Okay,
So there
that's
hasn't been an election in my recollection, and the Superintendent Denalfo reiterated that with me.
For schools?
Yeah.
Yeah, as a principal, I never remember. You were just happy.
That people showed up and volunteered.
Oh, you want to volunteer? No, thank you.
Yeah.
How often does that happen?
Bylaws. Most schools have bylaws where you have a limit, and if you wanted to increase the amount, then we have to sit down and talk about it, and then it gets approved. So in the school bylaw, it will be there if it's 16 parents or 18, and they work around that. And sometimes
But my understanding is that it's never been an issue to just increase it, because if there's parents who want to be involved, generally they're not getting turned away.
I mean, we've turned people away when we reach our limits. Unless, again, we have a vote to increase the number of people. All right. So there's a bylaw in my school, we had a bylaw that we had to follow. Before we were, I think, 14, and then we had to sit down, adjust the bylaw for approval, and then we increased it to 18. I think now we're 18.
Yeah.
Okay.
My school around like 20, and there is no lower limit. My school council, I've been on school council for 3 years now, and we have
the members, it actually increased this year. And then we have a member of council who, we have a parent volunteer committee as well. So, but that's run by council, like a council member.
Okay, so so with our requirements, like if you're just on the parent volunteer committee, you're not a voting member of council, so that doesn't qualify. You have to be actually the votes.
So I never sat on a parent council, but I'm an educator. I am a teacher.
Interesting.
I do understand process, how to fundraise from within the school with the kids and all that jazz too.
That's a loophole right there. Yeah.
Thank you for the loophole.
I'm good at that.
And this is why we brought this forward, because I would not want to
Exclude.
I would not want to have this change end up excluding somebody with your back.
Sorry.
No, it's a good point.
So then, how to proceed with this?
So it can be either or. So either you've been on the parent council in your school, or you're an educator, or you have a background.
Or a physician in education.
Position in education.
Yeah.
I have one question.
Is that sure?
Them being on the school council, is it like we're getting a reference to see, because I'm just going back to Trustee Sanders' point, like, is it like we just want to know they've been on the parent council, or we're actually going to get like a mini background check to see if they were effective or not?
I mean, my view was generally that you've sat on council. Because when you put your bio forward, like you remember you fill out your little, this is why you should pick me.
Mm-hmm.
And generally
You sell yourself in that.
you sell yourself in that. And so that I can always tell reading them, this person sat on council, they talk about a couple of things that they did on council, they ran their barbecue or fundraiser, whatever. You can tell reading it. I mean, yes, everybody knows that people lie on their resumes and that kind of thing, but like, I wouldn't feel comfortable going back to the school to be like, hey, do you like this person? Because then it just opens the door for way too much subjectivity.
Okay.
I would just be taking it as, did you sit on the council? Like, is your name on your school's website? That would be the extent of the cross check. You said you sit on council. I can go see on the website you sit on council.
I mean, this is not a new idea. This is something that I think
It's been thrown around.
we threw it around a little bit in the past. I'll get to you once I got it. And we kind of landed last time, well, we don't really want to put too much parameter because we want folks to come forward, right? And sort of on the same lines, like our Milton area has grown exponentially, Oakville has grown. So like maybe we do need more representation, right? Which led to the other conversation that we just had about increasing our numbers, right? I don't know, maybe if we're not in favor of putting this particular statement in there as like a condition to be a candidate for CPIC, then maybe we need to draft something as an alternative. These are the types of individuals that we're looking for. Like, I don't know if it needs to have like, on a job application where it says these are the requirements and these are nice to have things, like experience in these areas would be beneficial, would be an asset to this role.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to make it for like a job posting, right? These are the requirements. You must be a parent in this board to be eligible. And here's some nice to haves, right? And then again, we can talk about that in our information session that we deliver to these people who are coming, to say when we talk about writing their bios, because they'll come to that session first and then they're going to submit their bio. I don't really care that you love fishing or gymnastics or reading. I want to know what your skill set is, right? What are you bringing to this table? What are your interests? What are your passions in terms of education and being part of a community like this, right?
So maybe scaffold the questions. Because if I remember correctly, you just gave one question to answer. So if you had a couple of ones to try to answer, maybe you'd hit those points better.
Like in the actual application, not in the bio. Like the first part where they submit their name.
Yeah.
Maybe the bio is just a straight up text box.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of a bio, it says here's three questions. Answer these three questions, and those three answers are the ones that go out for voting.
Yeah. Sorry, I had a question.
Because again, we have to keep in mind that it's not us that are picking these individuals, right? It's your school councils, right? Like us around this table don't get to pick who's here. You're here because you were elected by your school communities, right? Or school communities meaning Burlington, Oakville, right? So for somebody like me who's a Burlington rep, and I like Labby, you're Burlington, correct? I didn't know Labby. So when I'm voting for my counterpart, I'm going in blind, reading those paragraphs. That's all I know about you, unless I can pick up the phone and say, hey, do you know this person? What can you tell me about them, right? Like the bio is what people are voting on. So maybe it is about the questions that we ask. Maybe it's a couple of questions plus a spot for them to sell themselves in anything else they want to tell us about themselves, right? So maybe we work on that as an alternative. I don't know what you guys think. Thoughts? Ada? Yes, back to you, Ada.
No, just asking, I mean, doesn't the principal or the, school council actually know the students? Because, know the person that's trying to run? Because we had someone, I'm not gonna call the person, but the person was on this committee, right? Back in the day. And the person was in my school, whatever, and we never heard about the person. And the principal was like, this person's never attended any meetings, doesn't do anything. And how come they're running for CPIC? And the person got into this committee, right? And back in the school, they don't attend, they don't help. So the school wasn't very happy about it.
But you also have to remember, Ada, that it's not just you. Where the person comes from, we vote by city, right? Yeah. So that's going back to my point about Labby, right? Like when the Burlington seat candidates came via email, I presented them to my council and I'm like, these are the people we have to pick from. I didn't know Labby. There was an individual from our school community. Yeah. She didn't get in. But Labby did.
So what you saying?
And it's all about the quality of that bio because I don't know these individuals, right? Yeah. If they're not part of my school community, I'm at a disadvantage.
Well, what I'm saying is that is it possible for us to ask the school that they to Veda?
That would be going back
like
to
a reference letter.
It comes back to what I said before. I mean, let's
kind of worms.
Yeah, let's say I'm a parent in my school and I want to apply for CPIC.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of run-ins with my principal.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Maybe at my school I'm that parent, and I've had a couple of run-ins with my principal. So my name goes in, and then chair of the committee here goes and talks to my principal and is like, "Hey, what do you think about this person?" And the principal just goes like, "No comment." Like, is that necessarily fair to me? I'm just saying it brings in a level of subjectivity, and it's hard to know. It's hard to know. So I was saying maybe it just comes, and it's a lot more work for us. And then what if you just have one principal who's very short on words, and it's just going to be like, yes, this parent is great. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say. And then another principal is just like, I love this parent. They do this, 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 just because you have a principal who's more verbose in his answer. It just brings in so much, in my opinion. I think trying to get some sort of reference just brings in way too much inconsistency, and it makes it not necessarily able to compare.
I think the question suggestion would you could want to add, we curate maybe like 3 questions around specific areas that you want them to talk about, and then share real life experience, how those were done. Just like interview process,
you can have one question. I'm just spitballing this here, but because thinking about the scenario you just that you just brought forward, you could phrase the question something like, not necessarily your school community, but what involvement have you had in school community activities? Well, if you sit on council, you're going to talk about council. But if you work for a school board, you're going to talk about a school board. And if you've done nothing at your school, you're going to make something up. And I think that wording a question something like that, like I said, I'm just spitballing this, but wording a question something like that hits both of those, either you're on council or you're otherwise involved in a school, without maybe having this hard and fast requirement.
Right, because if you're a community coach, you know what goes into making sure that things are done on time, that you have to have a due process for getting things in, that kind of stuff. Any involvement in school shows that you know what it takes, the time commitment it takes, all that kind of stuff. So we want people who have been involved in schools in whatever capacity. That will limit things, but then that way you can, if you have that question, how have you been involved in your school? Or a school community kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that would, going back to what you said before, Eden, where you said you have school council, but also the parent volunteer committee. That would open the door to people on that parent volunteer committee who maybe want to do CPIC.
And I feel it, just to change the language, just to say strongly recommended.
Yeah.
Like just if the language presented maybe.
Yeah.
And just to add, you know, an asterisk and just
Yeah.
really make it clear.
These are the requirements. These are the
Yeah.
nice to haves.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we can say, I think there's some element of consensus to maybe go down this job application more type of approach, right? To make some amendments on how we, when that email goes out and says, we want you to apply for CPIC, to make some amendments on how that communication goes out and structuring that a little bit more like a job posting, for lack of a better word. And then a second thing that says when you put, instead of just giving you a free text box that says write whatever you want to write to sell yourself in this box, we're going to, as a group, come up with 3 questions. Thinking through timing now, because to make these sorts of changes, we don't need to go through the board for anything like this. We can make these changes on our own. So this part of the change that Janelle and I were talking about, this can be in place for the upcoming election.
As March 4th-ish is when we're gonna.
Yeah, it's early March. Yeah, it's early March is when that initial application process opens. The bios aren't due for later. So the 3 questions we want to ask on the bio can get kicked a little bit. But I think we need
the job description piece where we talk about, we're looking for individuals who meet the following requirements. These are must-haves. These are the nice-to-haves.
So maybe if Janelle and I take an initial stab at putting that together, and then we can send it out to you guys to review, and then we don't need to vote on that at the next meeting. That's not something that we vote on.
No,
so we can as a group we can get that in place for.
If you do a Google Doc and allow
exactly
and allow us to be commenters, not editors, but
commenters, and then you put,
and then we put them on the side.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah,
we can do that for sure. That's the easiest way to do that. Okay.
Makes sense.
All right, that was super useful. I think I like this 3 questions thing better as the membership change requires.
Perfect.
Cool. All right.
I'm just looking. When is our next?
It's early March.
March 2nd, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, there's no February.
There's no February. So we have Council of Chairs on the 11th of February.
And then March 2nd.
Did you say something, Nikki?
That's the week that
the information needs to go out. So we'll collaborate via email on creating something, amending what we used to send out, and then maybe we'll circle you in as well so that you have a draft. Because we won't meet again. Well, we'll meet on the 2nd, and then it will go out shortly after that week.
Yeah. So we'll make, by the time we come on the 2nd, what you're going to send will be decided.
Sound good? Okay. Do you have something to say, Abby? Yeah, we are done all our discussion items. We are on to other business. Do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to add, when it comes to activities, I think we talked about it on the group a little bit, and I'm not sure if this was brought up last meeting because I missed the last meeting. The importance of us working together as a team when there is any event, and just for us to be, for us to understand that it's CPIC, it's not parent committee, it's not health and safety, it's CPIC. We're working on behalf of CPIC. So if there's an event, we should all be able to help, not just the people in that group. I don't know if has this been discussed already?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought it was. So that's just my comment. I really hope I want us to work together in any events, regardless, because we all bring in different, unique qualities. And sometimes, parent engagement, right? I might have something to add to health and safety. Health and safety, something else, right?
Yeah.
and working together will help us. And I understand that not the whole 14 of us would work on one thing, but if we need help, we should be able to extend that help. That's just something I wanted to say.
Okay. Thank you. I agree with you.
Noted.
Any other thoughts on that? Any other items, business items we want to talk about? So we're not doing any vote this evening regarding those two things. Mainly because the one is sort of outside of us at the present time. And the other piece is going to get resolved, I think, through just editing.
Janelle and I will draft something, send it around to everybody. As Rebecca said, I'll put everybody as commenters so you can read through and just add comments with your thoughts. And then Janelle and I can put everybody's thoughts together and we'll sort of as a consensus agree what that text is that's going to go out. That's what we have to get first is what we're going to put in the email that will go out to all the parents for when the application opens. Yeah. And then for the 3 questions,
we got a little bit more time.
We have a little bit more time because that part of it isn't until April.
Yeah, because they still need to, first they apply, then they come to their information session, then they write their bio. Then the bios come in and then we send those out for voting. So we've got a bit of time for those questions, but the initial, hey, CPIC's looking for 5 new members, that communication needs to roll out the first week of March.
Sounds good. So one more last question.
Yeah.
Is it a question? No. So I was asking you earlier, what do we do for Black History Month as CPIC? I know every school does different things, and at the thought level, there's something done as well. I was wondering, is there something that could be done for CPIC? In person?
We haven't in the past, as CPIC, done anything for any of the months. Like we've never done anything for Pride in June or any of the other like heritage months. Like as CPIC, we've never really done it. There's usually a couple of social media posts.
I did a social media post for Pride last year. But if you want, you and me, we can talk, or anybody, sorry, anybody can talk what you guys want on social media. Sure.
Yeah, I do.
A bunch of cool posts.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I don't.
That's easily done.
But can we make it a next agenda for next year to look at doing something in person?
I think you're thinking more like a parent engagement session. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, yes, but more focus on Black history.
Yeah, we could add.
I have this like a celebration.
Yeah, it is a celebration.
She means you need to celebrate her.
Not me, Black.
Okay, I'm not sure in particular, but she's trying to say like something like a celebration, you know?
But do you mean like us putting on an event like what like what the parent engagement session does, like organizing like that, or
it's going to be for Black History Month, and it's going to be for parents in general. So like parent engagement or focus on Black History Month.
I mean, if I can answer this one, where I'm sitting, the parent engagement committee can plan whatever events they would like as long as it falls within CPIC's purview. In my opinion, that would. So if parent engagement committee wants to organize an event,
Do you need an approval from the board level for Black History Month?
I wouldn't think so. What do you think? I see funding. Do we get money for it?
I mean,
the money allocated for that.
There is. We do have some budget available that, because you know, if I think about how like when speakers are booked, some speakers have a fee with them. So then we go to Michael and source that part of it out. And you know, but like when we're organizing speakers, it's like, okay, we would like to have a speaker who will speak about this. So if we talk about like Jonathan, who did AI, the one that Janelle's contact. We had said we wanted to do a parent engagement session on AI. Janelle said she had someone, so we got the cost got approved, the event got organized.
And some of these things can be complementary in terms of different portfolios. So for instance, there could be, depends on the theme, or what approach you want to take. So just throwing out something, let's say it's a session for Black parents and guardians or caregivers, and maybe the theme might be instilling the faith, right, in children, then money coming from faith and family life type of stuff. It could be something in terms of mental health, particular challenges within the Black community, right?
Yeah.
Of that. But you, what I'm hearing is you want something more celebratory, but it could be a tack or an avenue that could complement one of the. There could be funding from those other areas.
Yeah, so I think if you're planning it and you think, well, you know, do we have anybody in the board who does X?
Okay.
You know,
Well,
like bring the idea. We can discuss it at the meeting and
ideas as well are gratefully.
Like if you had a
accepted.
speaker in mind or like present that.
What I was thinking also, maybe to be more cultural friendly, if we could add like a culture where there's different cultures represented. And also we get a speaker. There's this speaker I'm thinking in mind. I'm not sure I'll think about it. I'm saying her, I just remember, I think Augustine Jean or something.
Gina,
Yeah, she's amazing.
You can get her. That's, she's
I know someone that knows her,
Yeah,
so
she's done things for
I could try to get her and see for next year for her to be our main speaker, and then we could.
Well, if you ask, probably no, but if Abby asks.
I can phone.
No, but I think if you come with ideas, say we're thinking about doing all sorts of this, is this all cool? I mean, you have the people here who can say like, okay, yes, this is all within policy, within purview, whatever. Run with it.
So let me come up with a little proposal, send it in, and we get approval for next year, because this year is already gone, not gone. I mean,
But too soon,
It's a bit too soon.
yeah.
so for next year, and then.
Absolutely.
with it. Everybody in support?
Yes, I may add, and when I came to my kids' school, I felt the same way. I didn't see much that was done, so I suggested to the then principal, and they agreed with me. So it was more on the celebratory part. I noticed there were a lot of African kids. There were things done for Black history, but there weren't things done for the African kids. They were not used to, they hear things about Black kids, but it doesn't really penetrate to them. So I suggested the drumming. So I got the guy that does drumming, African drums. So he brought like 80 drums to the school that the kids were in love. Everybody wanted to get the drum going. I got a friend that does African storytelling, and she came and did storytelling. And so it's been now the tradition that the former vice principal now became the principal, and she took it to her own school in Milton as well. So this is now what we do. So I also made sure that another thing I did when like you said, during the Pride time, we see the flags being drawn. When I came into the school, I'm like, where's the, I wonder when I come in, where's the Black history done? They say, oh, it's in the back, it is in the hallway. I said, no, parents don't usually come to the hallway unless there's, we're visitors. I want when we come into the school, we see them, because if it's Christmas, I see the Christmas tree. If it's Pride time, we see the flags outside. So I helped, and we made sure that we have those pictures that were in the hallway now in the foyer. So now is the thing, once you come into the school, there's visibility of that. So, and I wanted to announce, so now, I asked my son, like, do you guys do that? What is about Black History? Now they do it. It's not just announcing it. The kids know there is Black History Month because they're all part of that, helping put those pictures around, not just in the foyer now, is around the whole school, right? And there is presentation. The kids don't want, in fact, it's such a big deal that they want the elementary, like the junior ones, the JK to the grade 3, want their own time with the drumming because they want to participate. And there's a lot of time the guy had to come in so many times because they don't want to just have the little ones drum. The other ones also want to drum. So now it's part, they're looking forward to the
tradition now.
To that tradition. So we could have that so that parents feel that people understand the culture. And it's not just the African kids, they also do things for the kids from the Caribbeans and all that. So it's a joyous thing. People look forward to that. So we could also do that for other schools.
Sounds like a plan.
Cool. All right. So I think you guys have some ideas for like, yep.
Yeah, the more I work here and the more I learn about the Black parent community in Halton, the more I'm blown away by what I already knew, which is how diverse it is, and how growing up, most Black parents, families I knew hailed from the Caribbean.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Right? And some had, or through the United States and have been here for like a jillion years. And then more, now it's much more,
Yes.
and particularly Nigeria, Ghana, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if everybody appreciates or understands that as much. And therefore it calls upon us to be even more careful or respectful about that, right? Because if you're from Ghana, to start referring to things in terms of a Nigerian experience is all right. And so, well, I say that as a prelude to, we had, I think his name was Richard, but I could be wrong. He came from the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton. I know there's different groups, right? There's the African Caribbean Council, then there's Halton Black Voices, there's Roots, there's a lot of groups. He came and spoke. I had never met him before, and they've been around for a long time. And he spoke to the senior team, and it was incredible in terms of what he was teaching us about the background of their association, their group, and what they do. And so I don't know if there's something like opportunity partnerships with groups too, to be able to speak to that. But in terms of the diversity and the wide array and the experiences and the subjects and the topics, you could do this for 100 years, and you're never going to scratch the surface. I mean, drumming's one, but then storytelling is one. But the experience of even the Nigerian experience itself would be insightful, right? So I think there's a billion ways of getting into. I was even thinking about, what about graduates of our school system who are now Black women and men out there doing amazing things, and to talk about their experiences, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah.
Even that, I don't know.
I mean, you're very right. When I moved to Milton, my daughter, when we was the only Black kid in our community, in our neighborhood, and everybody was knocking on the door because she had beads on her head. They wanted to touch it, but that was maybe 14 years ago. Milton has grown. My neighborhood has many people, so it's an experience. Another thing I did for my school was in having a fair that it was a cultural fair. So it didn't have to be Nigerian or whatever. It was an experience. Everybody brought in their food, their crafts, so you can say, this is Nigeria, this is Italy, this is this. So you come in, we got them a passport. So you go around and take a passport. You pretend that you're visiting around the world.
It's like our own Epcot.
Yes. And it was an amazing time.
What's that?
What you just said, because I've said this to my school a couple of times. They said because of allergies, it's not
Oh,
allowed.
we did.
The food bit, there's rules around the
Yeah,
food,
food
but
is probably
Rules,
changed,
then there's
but the-
rules. But yeah, there would be rules on that.
Yeah.
But the concept generally,
Yes.
something like that. I mean, my school does a spirit day every year. That's and it's just cultural day. It's just wear anything from your culture, your background, your ancestry. Like, it is really lovely. You get the kids to come in and all sorts of stuff.
Our school tried to do one last year, and I made a Scottish castle out of cardboard.
No, it was.
Okay, so we'll
So
leave that with you guys to come up with some ideas, and then we can talk about it at a future meeting.
And if you guys want anything done on social media for this year,
I got some ideas
hit her up.
bubbling over. I'll hit the group chat in a few days.
That sounds good. All right.
Perfect.
Anything else?
No, let's go.
All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Adam for our closing prayer.
Let's start with the side of the cross in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together in the spirit of collaboration and service. Thank you for the discussions we've shared and the commitment each member brings to supporting our schools, families, and students. As we conclude this meeting, grant us the wisdom in our decisions, patience in our efforts, and unity in our purpose. Guide our work so that it may always reflect care, respect, and compassion for all. We place our plans in your hands and ask you for your continued guidance. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone.
thank you.